Today we'll be talking about a hero of Islam that's actually one of the Sahaba. And he's a hero of Islam because throughout his life, he participated in military conquests and he served as a leader of the Muslims in the battles, while also being one of the most trustworthy, humble, and just one of the closest companions to the Prophet ﷺ. His name is Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. He's a pretty popular Sahaba because he comes up in a lot of ahadith. He's also one of the most earliest Sahaba to accept Islam. So about his early life, he was raised in Mecca, and when the Prophet ﷺ got the message, and Abu Bakr, one of the first to accept Islam, the day after Abu Bakr accepted Islam, Abu Ubaydah accepted Islam as well. So he was one of the first few, maybe like when there was only under 10 Muslims, he accepted Islam at that time. And then they used to convene to talk about Allah and talk about the message in the Quran. He was one of those few, like a dozen or 2 dozen at that time. And it was a time of extreme persecution for the Muslims. So the fact that, any of the Muslims who lived through this, they were known to be the strongest Sahaba after when many people became Muslim during the time of Medina. And he had many qualities that were not common. For you can see in the leaders of Mecca and the Quraysh, they were very arrogant and proud. But Abu Ubaydah, even though he was raised in one of those families, he had humility and zuhud. He didn't like to live with a lot of things. He liked to live with only what you needed. And he was also trained in fighting, military prowess, and he was very skilled in this as a young man. And after the Prophet ﷺ made hijrah to Medina, and the battles that ensued, that followed after that, the battle of Badr, the battle of Uhud, the battle of the Khandaq, he was in every battle. He did not stay back in any of the battles. He didn't have an excuse for any of the battles, but he participated in each one. And in each battle, he did something that contributed to the victory of the Muslims. In the battle of Badr, he was faced against his own father, because his own father did not accept Islam. And so he came with the Quraysh to attack the Muslims, and when his father came to attack him, he had to slay him because he was trying to attack the Muslims. And that was one of the hardest things, but because of his love for the Prophet ﷺ, he was able to do this action. And then next, in the battle of Uhud, when the Prophet ﷺ was getting attacked very fiercely, and his helmet became embedded into his face, and some of the links of the iron or chainmail helmet were inside of his cheeks. Abu Ubaydah didn't want the Prophet ﷺ to hurt himself trying to remove it. So he took his front teeth and he bit onto the iron links in the Prophet ﷺ's face and pulled it out. And while he did that, the tooth that he tried to use to pull the link out of the Prophet's face, it came out of his mouth. So one of his teeth, he sacrificed to take an iron link out of the Prophet ﷺ's face. But there was one more. And so what did he do? He did it again with his other tooth, and that tooth also fell off. So he sacrificed 2 of his front teeth. For the rest of his life, he didn't have these teeth to take these links out of the Prophet ﷺ's face. It shows the love he had for the Prophet. He didn't care about his own appearance as long as he could prevent harm from coming to the Prophet ﷺ. And during other expeditions, the Prophet ﷺ, since he was one of the most senior companions, he also sent him to lead other expeditions. And on one expedition, Amr ibn al-As was leading some Muslims to fight or to carry out an expedition. And the Prophet ﷺ sent Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah to act as reinforcements to support them. And since Abu Ubaydah was one of the earliest Muslims, he was one of the most senior companions. And Amr ibn al-As, he just accepted Islam. But when Abu Ubaydah came, Amr ibn al-As said, "No, I want to lead this expedition. This is the only one that I've been able to lead. The Prophet ﷺ wanted me to lead this one." And so he was defying Abu Ubaydah's command. But Abu Ubaydah remembered something the Prophet ﷺ told him. He said, do not get into an argument. Do not defy each other. So Abu Ubaydah thought, even if I am right, if we fight, we'll be disobeying the Prophet ﷺ. So he allowed Amr ibn al-As, the new Muslim, to lead the expedition, even though he had the rights. He gave up his rights. Look at this humility, subhanAllah. And another time, this shows the most prominent attribute of Abu Ubaydah in this story. When a Christian delegation came to the Prophet ﷺ from another area, and they said, we need someone just and trustworthy to judge between our differences, to act as a judge between us. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I appoint Abu Ubaydah to be the judge between you guys, because he is the most just. And he had a hadith, that's the most famous hadith about Abu Ubaydah. He said, every ummah has a trustworthy one, or a trustworthy person in it. And the most trustworthy person in my ummah is Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. The words of the Prophet ﷺ saying, you are the most trustworthy of the ummah. That shows how much trust the Prophet ﷺ had in this individual. And as we can see, later on, when the Prophet ﷺ talked about the 10 people who were promised Jannah, he mentioned Abu Ubaydah as one of them. Because of all the sacrifices he went throughout his life, he became one of those that was promised Jannah in this life. And he knew that he was going to enter Jannah. Only 10 people were ever granted this, and Abu Ubaydah was one of them. And because of this, he had some military expertise. He led many expeditions, many battles he participated in. He became like the leader. And even after the Prophet ﷺ passed away. But first, let's talk about right when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Who was going to be the Khalifa after him? Now every one of us says, of course it's going to be Abu Bakr, because he appointed Abu Bakr to lead the Salah. Everyone knows he's the closest companion. But no, when they were discussing about who to make the next Khalifa, a group of them wanted to make Abu Ubaydah the next Khalifa, because of the hadith where the Prophet said, he is the most trustworthy in my ummah. And when Abu Bakr was talking to Umar ibn al-Khattab and Abu Ubaydah, he said, I want one of you two to become the Khalifa. Either Umar or Abu Ubaydah. Subhanallah. At that level. But then Abu Ubaydah said, no, Abu Bakr should be the Khalifa, and he let him become the Khalifa. And even after this, after Abu Bakr died, when Umar radiallahu anhu was passing away, Abu Ubaydah had already passed away before him. But he said, if Abu Ubaydah was alive today, I would have made him the next Khalifa. Not Uthman or Ali, he would have made Abu Ubaydah the next Khalifa. Subhanallah. And as the Muslim state was expanding during this time under Abu Bakr and Umar, as they were battling against the Byzantine Empire, which was the most powerful empire in the world, and the small group of Muslims were fighting against them. So who did they choose to try to rival the power of the Byzantine Empire? Khalid ibn Walid was the one appointed to fight against them. But when the Byzantine Empire sent more reinforcements, Umar, the Khalifa, he sent Abu Ubaydah to take over from Khalid ibn al-Walid. Because he had more expertise with dealing with all the logistics of managing the territory that they captured. So that's why he wanted him to take over from Khalid ibn Walid, the man who never lost a battle. And then he made Abu Ubaydah the commander-in-chief of the Muslim military, not even Khalid ibn al-Walid. And so when they were going into one of the most important battles that they had, called the Battle of Yarmouk, where the Muslims were only 30 or 40,000 and fighting against an army of 200,000 men from the Byzantine Empire, because they had captured a lot of the Syrian territory from the Byzantine Empire. And so the Roman emperor, he sent so many men, as many men as he could muster to try to stop the Muslims. And Abu Ubaydah was leading the Muslims against this huge army, with Khalid ibn Walid as the military general as well. And together they strategized to find strategies to use their light cavalry and the desert terrain in order to win against this huge opponent. And then after 6 days of battle, they were the victors. And they had defeated the massive army of the Byzantine Empire. And after this, the Byzantine Empire, the great empire that led the world for 500 years, had fallen at the hands of the Muslims, at the hands of Abu Ubaydah. Subhanallah. So we can talk about a few lessons. Let's talk about a few lessons that we can learn from his life before we end this. The number one that we know, of course, about Abu Ubaydah is trustworthiness. The quality that the Prophet ﷺ praised about him. Everything he did, no matter what he did, he tried to do it with ihsan. And that is part of trustworthiness. It's not just not breaking your promises. It's doing it with ihsan. So when the Prophet appointed him to do something, he knew it would be done well. So when we look in our lives, whatever we're leading, whether it's our families or our jobs, we have to do this with ihsan. So that when even non-Muslims look at us, they know that this person is a trustworthy person who does everything to perfection. And this is what we can take from Abu Ubaydah. And you will succeed at the level that Abu Ubaydah has succeeded if you take this attribute of trustworthiness. And the second most important thing about him is he was detached from greed. After he had conquered the Byzantine Empire, and when he was the commander or the leader of Syria, he was the governor of Syria, he had all the access to riches that he wanted. And some of the other generals like Yazid, they took advantage of it. And they became like the Roman emperors who lavished themselves with silk and gold and all this. But Abu Ubaydah did not. So when Umar ibn al-Khattab came to visit them and see what was going on, he saw all the other generals enjoying the luxuries. And he said, "What is this? What are you doing? Why are you accepting these luxuries and becoming like the wretched, the losers of the Byzantine Empire?" And then he entered into Abu Ubaydah's tent, and he saw only 3 things. There was a bed, and a sword, and a shield. And he said, "Why do you only have these things?" Abu Ubaydah said, "This is all I need to lead the Muslims. Only a bed, a sword, and a shield." And then Umar radiallahu anhu, he started crying and weeping. He said, "This dunya, this world has changed all of us except you, O Abu Ubaydah. You're the only one who is able to resist this world's temptations." So the lesson we have to take from this is that we have to live simply. We have to live simply and not allow changes to affect us, affect our character. For we could be poor our whole lives, or struggling, and then we land a new job, or we suddenly come into some wealth. We shouldn't let that change our character. Are we going to start shunning the other people you used to talk to that were also struggling? No, we still interact with them. We don't change our good character. And we continue to be great Muslims. So when we look at Abu Ubaydah's life, we realize we have to take these into consideration. Everything he accomplished, becoming the leader of the whole Muslim state in Syria, he accomplished this through these 2 qualities of trustworthiness and zuhd. Not succumbing to the pleasures of this world and engrossing yourself in them, but making sure that you continue to your heart continues to stay the same no matter what you have. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can allow us to become like this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to become the people of zuhd. May Allah allow us to become people of trustworthiness. May Allah allow us to have these qualities that the Prophet ﷺ praised in Abu Ubaydah, and allow us to lead the Muslims again like Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. Subhanallah, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.